Okay, we'll start. Okay, so good evening and welcome everyone. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight or today, as it is in your place, which together with the international Twitter space also broadcasted in about an hour, has really turned to be such an empowering day for freedom of speech and transparency and the fight of against censorship. So a few months ago, we revealed several clips from a video leaked to us of an international discussion, an internal discussion that took place in early June, in which a research team commissioned by the Israeli Ministry of Health to conduct a study to examine the safety of the Pfizer COVID vaccine presented their findings to officials in the ministry. This crucial study was based on a new adverse event reporting system that the Ministry of Health launched in December 2021. And the researchers were asked to analyze the adverse event reports received from the public over a period of 6 months from December 2021 to May 2022. Among other things, one of the clips we released shows the head of the research team, Professor Mati Berkovich, who is a pharmacology and toxicology expert, warning the IMOH that they need to think medical legal, to think carefully how to present their studies findings to the public, because they may be sued, since the study's findings completely contradict the Ministry of Health claims that serious side effects are rare, short-term, and transient, and that there is no problem actually to go and get vaccinated. 2 months later, in early August, the Ministry of Health released a report summarizing this study, and it was very surprising. It was surprising because, first of all, as we all know, Israel was crowned as the world's laboratory. And to a great extent, the basis for this claim was the fact that senior Israeli officials told everyone, the Israeli public, the FDA, and actually the entire world, that Israel has the most advanced surveillance technology, and that those technologies actually enable them to closely monitor the data. And I said it many times, in many interviews and international official meetings. Furthermore, Pfizer was quoting data from Israel, and the FDA and other regulators were relying on it, essentially almost all of the approval stages of the vaccine. For example, the approval of the booster. So imagine our surprise to discover that this official report, published in August 2022, suddenly states or admits that throughout the entire 2021, this critical year during which the vast majority of Israelis were vaccinated, most of them with 2 or 3 doses, the Israeli Ministry of Health actually did not monitor side effects in an appropriate way, because the system for monitoring side effects, guess what, didn't really work. It was dysfunctional. Shai, if you can show slide 1. Shai?
Yes, I'm here. Just a second. By the way, we have some problems starting the YouTube.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, so as you can see here in this slide, the ministry actually admits that they actually do not have a functional monitoring system in place. And this is why we built a new system in December 2021, they are saying, and recruiting a team of researchers to analyze the reports. And here you can see they admitted it black and white in their report. But this wasn't the only surprise in this report, because what this report claimed was that the results of this new study conducted by the researchers shows that, one, there is no new signal, the reported side effects are known, they are all known, and there are no new signals was observed. And second of all, that there is no causal relation to the vaccine, even if there is any side effect, even if there are any side effects, the report doesn't necessarily testify on causal relations with the vaccine. So, but unfortunate for the MOH, for our Minister of Health, we have in our possession not just those clips were released, but actually the entire video that was leaked to us of this internal meeting between the researchers and the Ministry of Health officials from June. As I said, we already released some clips of this video. Nevertheless, despite the fact that those clips were seen by millions of people worldwide by now, the Ministry of Health did not respond to our queries or to those of other media, including GB News and Epoch Times. And what's even more disappointing, there was deafening silence from the mainstream media. Even though we did reach out, we tried to reach out to journalists and editors, didn't even try or want to watch the video. The only response we got was by an anonymous Ministry of Health official in a Reuters fact-checked article written in Hebrew by also an anonymous writer, and in another article in Haaretz, claiming that the clips that we released were taken out of context. So, you know, there is a saying, the truth is like a lion, you don't need to defend it. Let it loose, it will defend itself. So that's exactly what we are going to do today. We are going to let the lion loose, to let the video speak for itself. So before releasing it, because it is rather long, it's a video of an hour and a quarter, what we are going to do today is to watch together extensive sections of it. And in light of the video, we will then discuss the claims made by the Ministry of Health in the report and in the fact-checked article. And so you can all decide for yourself whether these claims are indeed consistent with the findings and the conclusions presented by their own researchers. Then, with the help of the CPP experts, we will answer questions. Panelists will answer questions from the audience, and you are all welcome to send us questions via the chat here during this session. So, Shai, are you ready for the video?
Yeah, I can start sharing. The thing is, we have some problem with the live streaming to YouTube.
Oh.
So the question is, do we want to?
So Shai, what will happen if we use the Rumble backup instead? Is it working there? Because if it's working there, I suggest to tell people to move there. Because I'm not going to be surprised if this is just blocked by YouTube.
Yeah.
It could be the case.
And then there is no point of trying to fix it, right? So.
Okay. The question is.
Let's just I suggest to make a decision to move it to Rumble. I don't know how long it takes you, and after that, continue.
Okay. So do you want to pause for a few minutes? And
how many minutes do you want? In the meantime, I can say a few comments just on the background, and hopefully you can solve the problem until then. Okay.
Okay. So I'll do that, and I'll let you know.
So I just listening to Yaffa, I would like to highlight to people a few attributes of this new reporting system that are quite unique, and that will provide context, I think, to some of the follow-up discussion that we're going to have. So, one of the debatable comments, if I may say, that people have made about the VERS report, the reporting system in the US, that it's sort of anonymous and perhaps prone for manipulations by people that over-report and unreliable reporting and so forth. Again, I say that acknowledging the fact that I don't believe personally that that's a major problem with the VERS, but I do want to emphasize that this particular system in Israel, every single report has to be, the reporter has to provide their own national ID number. In Israel, we have a national ID. Every individual, once born, you have your national ID, and that's kind of the way that is being used to identify you throughout different systems. So you have to provide this number, and that basically allowed the researchers to make sure that you indeed received all the doses that you claimed you received, and you can actually go and look at the medical records of that person, because all the reportings are coming from the one of the, or presumably, or the assumption was that it will come from one of the large health maintenance organizations that we have in Israel, that basically every individual in Israel is being cared for by one of those HMOs. So unlike the VERS system, here you have maybe an unusual ability to verify the identity of the reporting person, and also that what you can see in their clinical records, including the vaccination record, is really in line with what they reported. And that basically implies that whoever reported there, the Ministry of Health can actually get to them personally, and through the HMO, that they can actually care for them. They can ask them more questions if they want, which, as we will see later, unfortunately that was not the case. The Ministry of Health did not follow up on that. So we are really talking about a very unique system that unfortunately came to life only very late in the game, as Yaffa mentioned, only a year after vaccination in Israel has started, where in fact, at least for the adult population, in fact, most of the doses were given already, including the third booster that was given in the months of August and September of 2021, before the system has been put in place. So I think this is an important background to understand the context and the reliability of the reporting of this system. So, Shai, are we now in good shape?
In just a second, and I will send you a link to Rumble. Okay.
And people that are on the call, if you can help distribute that link, that would be great. Unfortunately, we are dealing with I don't know if these are natural incidents or intentional incidents by YouTube. So, but one can guess.
Yeah. So they were actually not lying when they said that we have advanced technologies. We do have advanced technologies. They just didn't use them until now, until December 2021.
Okay, and then okay. And Shahar, do we have the chat working? I can paste it in the chat. That will be the link, Rumble. We can also paste it.
Yeah, and Shai, if you can send it also on the WhatsApp, so we can keep distributing it, because I just want to make sure that people have the right link.
I don't have WhatsApp on my computer. If somebody can pass it.
Okay, I think someone, Shachar sent it. I think I suggest that we just move forward, Yaffa, with the video.
Okay.
Yeah, you continue. We'll set it up.
But I see in the groups that people are writing what's happening. Okay.
Yaffa, I suggest to continue.
Okay. Yeah, but the question is if Shai can.
So to play the first video, right?
In a minute, okay? So yes, let's start with the findings. The first video will show the findings. The team analyzed both predetermined, just a short explanation. The team analyzed both predetermined fields of side effects that were set by the Ministry of Health, and there were 7 such categories. And also they analyzed the free text in which people described in their own words what happened to them, their side effects, and they identified 22 categories of side effects. So we will now hear the main researchers saying how surprised they were to find that some serious adverse events they analyzed were not rare, short-term or transient, as we were told so far by all our health authorities and regulators, but in fact long-term and ongoing, lasting many times for months and even more than a year, and that they identified side effects that were actually not listed by Pfizer. So Shai, if you can start showing video number 1.
אוקיי, אז השלב הבא זה בעצם לקחתי את כל התופעות הנוירולוגיות ובעצם הסתכלתי מהם הפיטיז, מהן ברזולוציה יותר נמוכה, מהן התופעות שהיו השכיחות ביותר, בסדר? אז פה זיהינו אותן בעצם, אלה התופעות הנוירולוגיות שדווחו בשכיחות גבוהה, ובעצם שוב פעם בחרתי להתעסק בהן ופחות לנתח את כל המידע של התופעות הפחות שכיחות, וראיתי שבעצם כשלקחתי את התופעות האלה וניתחתי בעצם את הדיוריישן שלהם, אז פה באמת הייתה הפתעה, כי בחלק נכבד מהדיווחים, כ-68%, כן היה מידע על דיוריישן, בסדר? ב-85%, ב-85 מקרים, לא משנה, ב-22% מכל הדיווחים בקטגוריה הזאת היה איזשהו מידע על משך התופעה, וברוב המקרים שדווחו על תופעות ארוכות שנמשכו מעבר לחודש. בסדר, קבעתי חודש כאיזשהו נקודת חתך, משום שחשבתי שלתופעות נוירולוגיות יש איזושהי צפיות שהם יעברו תוך עד חודש, וברגע שאנחנו מסתכלים מעבר לחודש, אז זה משהו שמרמז באמת על משהו שלא ידענו קודם. ושימו לב, רק 12% היו תופעות שדווחו בין חודש ל3 חודשים. יתר התופעות היו מאוד מאוד ארוכות, שנמשכו מעבר ל3 חודשים. בסדר? זאת אומרת, הדיווחים שכללו מידע על דיוריישן, רובם דיווחו על תופעות ארוכות טווח. בסדר? ובעצם לקחתי והסתכלתי על אותה קבוצה של דיווחים שהכילה את המידע הזה, ורציתי לראות באיזה תופעות מדובר. אז פה זה פילוח שעשיתי, ובעצם ראיתי שהיו פה טינטונים, היו פה היפואסטזיות, סחרחורות מתמשכות, פרסטזיות וכולי, שרובן כאמור היו ארוכות יותר מ3 חודשים. בסדר, היו גם דיווחים של מעבר ל-12, תסתכלו, כ-30% מהדיווחים בעצם ציינו משך שהוא מעבר לשנה, ופה בקבוצה הזאת יש 13 חודשים, 15 חודשים, וחלקן הכילו גם מידע של ongoing. זאת אומרת, 65% מהם בעצם אני ציינתי את הדיוריישן, אבל ב-65% מהמקרים לא היה בעצם את הסוף. הם אמרו כבר 5 חודשים כואב לי, ועדיין זה נמשך. זאת אומרת, אנחנו לא באמת יודעים את הטווחים מבחינת הסוף. כי רוב הדיווחים ציינו שזה ongoing. בסדר, אבל אנחנו כבר יכולים להגיד שיש תופעות שנמשכות לפחות 3, 6, 9 או 12 חודשים. בסדר? פה מה זה פה? אוקיי, אז זה התופעות שבעצם זיהיתי אותם כנמשכות מעבר לחודש. היו מעט מאוד מקרים של ריצ'לנג'ים, זאת אומרת בערך כ7% דיווחו על איזושהי החמרה או חזרה של הסימפטום אחרי מנת חיסון נוספת. בסדר, וגם פה הסתכלתי מי בעצם, אבל בגלל המספרים הקטנים אז אני חושבת שזה לא מייצג התופעה הזאת של הריצ'לנג'ים, לעומת משך התופעות שבעצם דווחו על ידי מספר יחסית גדול של מדווחים. אותו דבר אני אסתכל על התופעות של הפרעות במחזור, בסדר? והחידוש הוא שבעצם הצלחנו לרדת ברזולוציות ולראות על איזה תופעות בדיוק מדובר, בסדר? של מחזור שהוא ארוך או דימום ממושך או דימום חזק. דיסורדר זה כל פעם שהם אמרו שיש איזשהו שינוי אבל לא ציינו בדיוק מה השינוי. פה בעיה של סדירות, העלמות של מחזור או מחזורים קצרים, שזה 80% מהדיווחים שהתקבלו בקטגוריה הזאת. אני אדלג כרגע על לא, הנה. פה השקף הזה בעצם, שוב פעם, ניסיתי להסתכל ולהבין הזאת, והחלטתי לשים את הגבול בשבוע, משום שעד כה ידוע שהתופעות האלה הן תופעות קצרות מועד של מספר ימים, והחלטתי בעצם לשים את הספוט על דיוריישנים שהם מעבר לשבוע, על תופעות ארוכות, שאנשים דיווחו שבעצם השינוי לא היה של מספר ימים או שבוע, אלא מעבר לכך, וסכמתי בעצם את המקרים האלה וראיתי שגם פה יש לא מעט מקרים של הפרעות במחזור החודשי שהן נמשכות לאורך מספר חודשים. ובעצם שוב פעם עשיתי את אותו הדבר, לקחתי והסתכלתי באיזה תופעות מדובר, מהם התופעות שבעצם נמשכות פרקי זמן ממושכים. אז חלק מהאנשים דיווחו שהם לא מקבלות מחזור, שהמחזורים שלהם מאוד כבדים וארוכים, והם לא סדירים מאז החיסון. בסדר, זה נגיד רוב הדיווחים שדיברו על תופעות ארוכות טווח, הם בעצם דיווחו על ההפרעות מהסוג הזה. גם פה היו ריצ'לנג'ים, כ10% מהמדווחות דיווחו שהיה ריצ'לנג', זאת אומרת הבעיה נפתרה, ואז הם חוו את אותם השינויים שוב פעם אחרי שהם קיבלו מנה נוספת. בסדר, אני חושבת ש10% זה כבר מתחיל להיות די יפה, וזה כן מראה על איזשהו, זה מחזק קצת את הקשר בין מה שמדווחות לבין החיסון, אם יש תופעה של ריצ'לנג'. אותו דבר עשיתי בשריר שלד, בתופעות של שריר שלד, אז קודם כל זיהיתי את התופעות הנפוצות שעליהן דיווחו. עכשיו, פה חשוב להגיד שהתופעות האלה מופיעות בעלון לרופא, חוץ מהבק פיין שלא מופיע שם, אבל כן דווח בצורה ניכרת. בסדר? רק ההבדל פה באמת בהשוואה לעלון, זה שבעלון באופן מפורש מצוין שהתופעות האלה חולפות לאחר מספר ימים, וכמו שראינו גם, וזה בעצם אני חושבת החידוש של העבודה הזאת, זה שיש פה הרבה דיווחים שהם, היה פה רק 5% של תופעות שהם נמשכו בין שבועיים לחודש, וכל היתר היו ממושכות הרבה יותר. בסדר? ואלה בעצם ואלה שלושת התופעות שהם הופיעו הכי הרבה כארוכות טווח, מיאלגיות, ארטרלגיות וכאב בזרוע.
זה לא כאב במקום ההזרקה, בסדר? אלא זה פשוט כאב בזרוע, כי כאב במקום ההזרקה לא שייך לקטגוריה הזאת. גם פה היו כמה מקרי ריצ'לנג'ים, אבל ממש באחוזים מאוד נמוכים, ומה ששמתי לב, אני לא יודעת אם באמת יש קשר, אבל אני חושבת שבתופעות שהן מאוד מאוד ארוכות טווח, שם דיווחו על פחות ריצ'לנג'ים, אולי משום בעצם היא נמשכה הרבה זמן אחרי החיסון, ואז לא היה ריצ'לנג', אלא התופעה הזאת פשוט נמשכה בלי קשר למנות החוזרות. בתופעות שהן של מערכת עיכול, אז תשימו לב שפה הייתה התפלגות קצת שונה לקבוצות גיל, והקבוצה של הילדים הקטנים הייתה הרבה יותר משמעותית בהשוואה למבוגרים, בסדר? אז כנראה שדווקא הילדים הקטנים יותר חווים תופעות לוואי מהסוג הזה. ושוב פעם, גם פה היו כמה, אומנם הקבוצה הזאת של תופעות לוואי היו יותר קצרות, יש פה 20% שדיווחו על תופעות לוואי, אבל עדיין יש פה חלק לא מבוטל שגם דיווחו על תופעות לוואי במערכת העיכול שנמשכו מעבר לחצי שנה, 3 חודשים. הקבוצה של מעבר ל-12 חודשים הייתה יותר קטנה, אבל אלה גם תופעות שאמורות לחלוף די מהר, ובעצם פה אנחנו רואים שוב פעם דיווחים על תופעות יותר ממושכות. ובעצם התופעות שעליהן הם דיווחו זה כאבי בטן ממושכים, שלשולים ממושכים, בחילות. פה היה 5% מהדיווחים על ריצ'לנג'ים, בסדר? על כאב בטן ושלשולים חוזרים אחרי מנה נוספת. ופה בעצם סיכמתי את מה שאמרתי לאורך המצגת, שההתפלגות בגילאים ובמגדרים נשמרה רוב הזמן. שנייה, אני רוצה לדלק פה כי אלה דברים שבאמת דיברנו עליהם במהלך המצגת. פה סיכמתי בעצם את היתרונות של הניתוח של השדות הפתוחים, שכבר ראינו שמאפשר זיהוי של תופעות שהן לא מוכרות, ולא רק שאנחנו מזהים אותם, אנחנו גם יודעים לאפיין אותם מבחינה קלינית, מבחינת ה-challenge אי אפשר, אבל משך ואונסט, שלא נגעתי כרגע באונסט, אבל יש שם גם הרבה מידע על אונסט, אפשר לעשות איזשהו ממוצע, לראות מתי מתחילה כל תופעה, מתי מסתיימת וכולי. ובעצם אנחנו מזהים ככה סיגנלים או תופעות שהן בעלות DRR, שזה disproportionate reporting rate, כמו שראינו במחזור ובתופעות נוירולוגיות. זהו, אני חושבת שיש פה סיכום, אני אעביר לכם את המצגת, אבל יש פה סיכום של כל אחת מהקטגוריות שדיברנו עליהן, שבעצם זיהינו את 5 ההפרעות השכיחות, שהיוו 80% מהדיווחים בנושא הזה של הפרעות במחזור הווסת. חשבנו שהן קצרות מועד, זה מה שהמחקרים עד עכשיו מראים, ואנחנו גילינו שבעצם למעלה מ-90% מהדיווחים שבהם מופיע איזשהו אפיון של משך מדווחים על שינויים ארוכי טווח, כאשר 60% מתוך הקבוצה הזאת מדווחים על שינוי למעלה של 3 חודשים, בסדר? תופעות נוירולוגיות, זיהינו בעצם תופעות חדשות שלא מופיעות בעלון לצרכן, כמו סחרחורות, טינטונים.
Shai, we lost the sound. Is that the video or there is a problem?
There is a problem.
Sorry.
אז זה גם משהו תוך 100
Take it a little bit back.
It's now back. It's now back. No, continue. Don't take
אותו
it.
דבר לגבי התופעה הזאת, ב-68% מהדיווחים שכללו איזשהו מאפיין של משך תופעה, הופיע משך שהוא ארוך מחודש, בסדר? ומה זה ארוך מחודש? 88% מתוך אלה שהם היו ארוכים מחודש, הם בעצם היו במשך של למעלה מ3 חודשים. בסדר? אז זה גם משהו שמחזק שריר שלד, גילינו בעצם שזה די דומה, התופעות שעלו בדיווחים הן די דומות למה שצוין בעלון, למעט ה-back pain שהיה מאוד נפוץ בדיווחים. אז הוספנו פה עוד איזשהו, בעצם גילינו עוד איזושהי תופעה שעליה לא דווח בעלון. ושוב פעם, הפער המשמעותי היה באמת באפיון של משך התופעה, שבעלון היה כתוב באופן מפורש שהתופעות האלה אמורות לחלוף תוך מספר ימים, ואנחנו ראינו שזה לא ככה, כי ב-50% מהדיווחים שבהם צוין בכלל משך, היה משך של למעלה מחצי שנה, בסדר? ועל מערכת העיכול למשל.
אני חושב...
Yes. So to sum up this important section, Sasha presents 4 central findings that are really striking, and she's essentially repeating them when she's presenting the analysis of each of them, each of the 4 main side effects that she's describing here: the neurological side effects, the menstrual irregulations, the musculoskeletal and the digestive problems. And those are, first and foremost, she's talking about new signals. She's essentially talking about new signals that the team identified and characterized, side effects that were not listed by Pfizer, including neurological side effects such as hypoesthesia, paresthesia, tinnitus, dizziness, back pain, and also digestive system symptoms, mainly in children. So new signals are definitely one of the findings. Then she also emphasizes the fact, and again, throughout all of the side effects that she describes, she talks about long-term events. She clearly stated that she and her team members were surprised to see that serious adverse events are actually long-term. They last, as I said, weeks, months, a year, or even more. And it actually was seen, it was the case for all of the 4 categories of side effects that we saw here: menstrual irregularities, various neurological side effects, musculoskeletal injuries, and the GI problems. The third very striking finding is that the side effects are many times ongoing. And this is very important finding, because, and Sasha emphasizes it, that in many cases the side effects are ongoing, which means that they still lasted when the study was over. And in fact, there is no way to know the actual duration of these side effects. And the last one, the fourth finding was what they called re-challenge, which is actually recurrence or even worsening of a side effect following repeated doses of the vaccine. So basically, even if the side effect, what we saw here is that most of the side effects are long-term and even ongoing, but even if they do go away, even if they do pass eventually, they recur or even worsen after a repeated dose. And this was seen by the researcher in actually, I think, all of the side effects that they analyzed. Although Sasha says that in some cases there was a small percentage of the re-challenge phenomenon, it is, you need to pay attention that it's simply because most of the side effects were long-term, so they cannot come back if they still continue. Okay, so moving on to the next part, the discussion. The next clip that we are going to see, Shai, if you can put...
Yaffa, if before we move to the next slide, I just want to make 2 comments just to give people context. So just for people background, the form that people had to fill in when they reported on the side effects had 2 parts in it. One of them was a structured part where you had closed questions that you could answer yes or no, and that included the range of side effects that the Ministry of Health included initially. Interestingly enough, neurological side effects were not included in the structured part of the form. The form also had an unstructured part, and in fact, this is actually quite impressive. The research team used quite sophisticated natural language processing and machine learning techniques with the help of the A200 unit in Israel to process the free text, and that would allow them to understand that there are actually quite a lot of reports on neurological side effects, but also analyze aspects like rechallenge and aspects like the length of the impact of the side effect. And the other thing, the last thing that I want to emphasize here is just that everybody will understand. The Ministry of Health know exactly who these people that experience the rechallenge. So these people, based on their own research team, clearly had an impact from the vaccine, a causal impact from the vaccine, or almost certainly had a causal impact from the vaccine, sometimes serious and long-term impact. And nevertheless, nobody there is talking about reaching out to these people and really trying to acknowledge that they were injured, work to treat them and compensate them. I think that that's, even on the very basic ethical and personal level, that's disturbing.
Yeah. We will see later that there were even people who were hospitalized and they didn't reach out to them. So moving on to the discussion, the next clip we wanted to see is actually a representative excerpt from the discussion about the study's findings in the meeting, and we're going to hear the researchers stress again that they found new and previously unknown side effects, long-term and ongoing adverse events, and how they study helps, the study that they conducted helps establishing causal relations between the vaccine and the adverse events that were detected. So Shai, if you can put video number 2.
Starting.
אני חושב, אמיליה, שזה צריכה להיות שאיפה שלה ושלנו, לפרסם את זה ביחד. א', לגבי מצגת, מי כמוכם יותר בקיאות לפרסם את זה באתר של משרד הבריאות. כן, ואין ספק שפרסום דבר כזה יהווה באמת שקיפות לציבור, הציבור ידע, יקבל את עם כל ההסתייגויות שקיימות לגבי הנושא של הדיווח הספונטני, הדיווח שבא באופן אישי מאותו אדם, שלפעמים יש פה גם נושא של secondary gain. אבל בסדר, זה אתה כותב במאמר.
אבל רגע, לגבי secondary gain, אני חייבת לציין שדווקא מערכת שלנו היא דווקא שונה פה, כי יש זיהוי. יש זיהוי של המטופל, זה לא דיווח אנונימי.
אז להפך, המטופל רוצה לדווח.
לא, אבל זה אומר שאתה לא יכול להושיב 1,000 בוטים כדי שיקפיצו לך דיווחים.
לא זו הייתה הכוונה שלי, ממש לא. הכוונה שלי הייתה, תראו, אני עדיין לא רוצה לעשות סיכום, כי בסופו של דבר יש פה כמה דברים, יש את התופעות שהן מתמשכות. זאת אומרת, אם חשבנו שמספר תופעות הן קיצות טווח, מה אנחנו רואים פה? אני מדבר כרגע בעיקר על הדיווחים הספונטניים. הטקסט החופשי, סליחה, הטקסט החופשי. הכל ספונטני ועל טקסט חופשי. נפריד בין דיווח שהוא פר מערכת לבין העובדה שהבן אדם כותב בעצמו. אז יש פה את הקטע בכל זאת של secondary gain. אני אזכיר לכולנו את התופעה שהייתה בזמנו עם האלטרוקסין, אוקיי, שבאו וכתבו וכולי וכולי, והיה מאוד מאוד קשה להפריד את התבן מן המוץ. לא היה ברור כמה באמת קשור לגנריקה החדשה הזו, או באמת למחלה עצמה, וחלק זה. אבל אמילי, יש פה 3 דברים על בעצמך אמרת, פרסום לקהל הרחב, פרסום מדעי, אין ספק. והדבר העיקרי בעיניי, אמילי, הנוכחי, זה לפרסם, לבוא ולשתף את שרון, את נחמן אש, זאת אומרת, אני כרגע מסתכל גם על קהל היעד המשותף שלנו ושלכם, כדי להמשיך את המיזם הזה. חבל לא להמשיך אותו, חבל.
אני אטפל בזה.
בייחוד שיש כזאת קבוצה גדולה של דיווחים שהם ongoing, זאת אומרת, אנחנו לא באמת יודעים מה נגמר שם, וגם הטקסט החופשי אפשר לנו באמת לזהות תופעות חדשות כמו טמטון, כמו היפואסטזיות, פרסטזיות, מהם סוגי ההפרעות. זה לא באופן כללי להגיד יש איזה שהם הפרעות במחזור הווסת, אלא ממש להבין איזה סוגים של הפרעות. ואני חושבת שככל שנמשיך לאסוף, אז הפול שלנו יהיה יותר גדול ויותר מהימן, ובאמת נוכל גם, העבודה הזאת, אמיליה, אני חושבת שאפשר, היא לפחות עוזרת לנו כן לבסס את הקשר הסיבתי, כי ברגע שמדווח ריצ'אלנג' וברגע שמדווחת תופעה שהיא ארוכה ויש לה התחלה, שאנחנו יודעים מתי היא התחילה, זה משהו שאני חושבת שהוא הכי קשה לעשות, אבל המידע הזה, הניתוח של המידע הזה מאפשר את זה. אז יש פה עוד איזשהו יתרון שהוא לא רק לזהות את התופעות, אלא גם לקשור אותם לחיסון.
אני גם מאוד חושבת שצריך לעדכן את החברה, כי בפעם האחרונה שאנחנו לפחות נוכחנו בדיון, והיה דיון על תופעות ארוכות טווח, הם אמרו שאין להם ידע על זה. אז הנה, יש ידע על זה, ויש מידע.
אבל אני צריך להגיד משהו לגבי, תראו, קודם כל שוב, אחד הדברים שחזקים פה זה הריצ'אלנג'. אנחנו יודעים לגבי תרופות, יש את הקלסיפיקציה של נרנחו. נרנחו, כשיש תופעה שחוזרת עם הריצ'אלנג', זה מקפיץ את זה, והופך את זה מ-possible ל-definitive, למשמעותי. כאן נצטרך לחשוב גם מדיקו-לגלית. למה מדיקו-לגלית? כי לא מעט תופעות שהיו, אמרנו, אוקיי, זה קיים, יש דיווח, אבל בכלל תתחסנו. זאת אומרת, צריך לחשוב איך כותבים את זה ואיך מציגים את זה בצורה נכונה, ולא שיהיו אחרי זה תביעות משפטיות, רגע, אתם אמרתם שהכל יחלום ואפשר להתחסן. והנה עכשיו תראו מה קרה לי, התופעה נמשכת. גם האספקט המדיקו-לגלי, לפני שאנחנו רצים הלאה, אמיליה, כדאי לחשוב עליו לפני שרצים הלאה.
בסדר גמור. אני אבקש יהיה להציג את כל זה לשרון, לראות איך אפשר לקדם את כל הנושא הזה.
סשה, זו עבודה מדהימה, כולכם, זה ממש...
אתם פשוט מדהימים, אני חושבת שממש זכינו, וחשוב להמשיך את זה. יש פה ערך מוסף למערכת.
חובה להמשיך את זה.
Yeah, so we just heard the researchers continuing to talk about the long-term and ongoing side effects that they found, and explicitly stress that there is a huge group of reports that is ongoing, and how analyzing the free text enable them to identify new signals. Importantly, they are talking about the phenomenon of re-challenge and emphasizing that this phenomenon establishes causal relations between the vaccine and the side effects. In Professor Brekovich's words, it increases the chances of causality from possible to definite. This is how he does it. And we all heard that in a previous discussion with Pfizer, and this is something I think someone from the ministry's officials is saying, the company claimed that they have no knowledge on long-term side effects, and then she stresses, but here there is knowledge and there is information, right? And if that's not condemning enough, Professor Berkovich essentially warns, we can hear him essentially warning the Minister of Health that they should think medical legal, that they should think very carefully of how to write and how to present these studies findings to the public, because they told the public to go get vaccinated despite the side effects, and claimed that they were just something very short term and don't worry, and they are transient, etc. We all also heard how important it is for the researchers to publish their results and to continue the study. And also you could hear the ministry's officials, the ministry's epidemiology department head, Dr. Emilia Anis, who is the senior official in this meeting. She's really thanking them and saying this is amazing, an amazing study, and you did an amazing job. So other similar discussions have taken place in this video, so you'll be able to find them in the full version that we will release at the end of this session. So now,
Yaffa, if I just want to give again a context. So just so people understand who are the speakers and who are the names that are mentioned, just to give a little bit of more context. So this Emilia, the person, this is Emilia Anis. This is the person, essentially number 3 or 4 in the Ministry of Health in Israel, that is responsible for the wing that is supposed or is responsible to monitor side effects of the vaccine. So she's very senior, and as Yaffa mentioned, you can see the immediate reaction to the work, which is actually very impressive work. I have to say, I have to emphasize that again and again, that they actually did quite an honest work initially and really analyzed the data that they received quite thoroughly and creatively. And she thinks that the work is amazing, and she thinks that the work should continue. And just fast forward, we know that the Ministry of Health did not continue the work, and one has to wonder what happened, what changed from the moment they hear about this in this discussion to the decision not to continue this research. Now, who are the other names that are mentioned and are not present in this discussion? So if I think you heard the name Sharon, that's referring to Dr. Sharon Al-Roi. She's the number 2 person in the Ministry of Health, and she has been leading the collaboration, the research collaboration that Israel signed an agreement for with Pfizer. She was the representative on the Israeli side, and she had regular meetings with Pfizer. She's mentioned there as someone that these results should be presented to. By the way, she's in regular contact with the Pfizer people. She wrote papers with the Pfizer people in the academic literature about the efficacy of the vaccine. And the other person that is mentioned is the CEO, Nachman Ash, Professor Nachman Ash. He's also mentioned in the conversation as someone that these results should be presented to, right? And Emilia Anis, he's confirming that she's going to take care of that. So one plausible assumption has to be considered here that while the people present in the meeting are very excited, they go afterwards and present these results to the higher ranks above them. And then there is another decision being made quite opposite to the sentiment that we've heard, which is about discontinuing this research. And also, as we probably will speak in a bit, misrepresenting the findings to the Israeli public.
So we'll go back to some of the things that Retsef just said, but for now I want to move on to the next part, which I call facts versus fact-checking. So if you can start showing the presentation, Shai. So as you recall, we started this meeting by showing the Israeli Ministry of Health report claiming that no causal relations between the vaccine and the adverse events was observed, and that no new signal was found. They also made some more claims in the Reuters fact-checking article. So now let's confront these claims and fact-checking with some facts. So if you can move to slide 3. So yes, as I said, the first claim is that no causal relation to the vaccine was observed. So at this point, if what we heard didn't cover it, let's hear again what the team had to say on this issue and compare between what the researchers were saying in the meeting and the IMOH's claim. So video number 3.
פה היו ריצ'אלנג'ים, כ10% מהמדווחות דיווחו שהיה ריצ'אלנג', זאת אומרת הבעיה נפתרה, ואז הם חוו את אותם השינויים שוב פעם אחרי שהם קיבלו מנה נוספת. בסדר, אני חושבת ש10% זה כבר מתחיל להיות די יפה, וזה כן מראה על איזשהו, זה מחזק קצת את הקשר בין מה שמדווחות לבין החיסון, אם יש תופעה של ריצ'אלנג'. העבודה הזאת, אמיליה, אני חושבת שאפשר, היא לפחות עוזרת לנו כן לבסס את הקשר הסיבתי, כי ברגע שמדווח ריצ'אלנג' וברגע שמדווחת תופעה שהיא ארוכה ויש לה התחלה, שאנחנו יודעים מתי התחילה, זה משהו שאני חושבת שהוא הכי קשה לעשות, אבל המידע הזה, הניתוח של המידע הזה מאפשר את זה. אז יש פה עוד איזשהו יתרון שהוא לא רק לזהות את התופעות, אלא גם לקשור אותם לחיסון.
אחד הדברים שחזקים פה זה הריצ'אלנג'. אנחנו יודעים לגבי תרופות, יש את הקלסיפיקציה של נרנחו. נרנחו, כשיש תופעה שחוזרת עם הריצ'אלנג', זה מקפיץ את זה, והופך את זה מ-possible ל-definitive, למשמעותי.
אני רוצה רק להגיד שמבחינת המחקר, נגיד אם אנחנו רוצים לפרסם את זה כמאמר, יש לנו דרך, בגלל שהדיווחים הם מזוהים, לשלול את המחלה. ואז אנחנו, כי זה תמיד מה שאומרים, הוא קיבל איזושהי תופעה שהיא מאוד דומה לתופעה מהמחלה, אוקיי? ובעצם לנו יש אפשרות לנטרל את הגורם הזה, כי יש לנו גישה לתיקים שלהם, ולשלול מחלה באותו בן אדם, ולדעת שהתופעה היא רק מהחיסון.
נכון.
לא צריך להיכנס לתיקים שלהם, בשביל זה יש את זה במערכת של המשרד, את כל בעצם מידע על חולי קורונה. אפשר לעשות הצלבה שם.
And so, as you can clearly hear in this video, the researchers are emphasizing again and again that there were strong indications for causal relations, that none of these most important findings about causality and long-term effects was mentioned in the ministry's report.
And just to emphasize, this fits very much in the medical legal advice, right? If what you care about is that people will not sue you because you just heard from your own research team that your narrative to the public was not that correct. So instead, what you do, you continue to reinforce the narrative, the wrong narrative, knowingly wrong, and you continue to give the impression to the public that these are just merely reports and not like individuals, and again, I want to remind people, these are specific individuals that, as we even just heard, the Ministry of Health knows exactly who these are. They know exactly if they got sick, they know exactly how many vaccines they received, they know everything, they can know everything about their health, and nevertheless, they continue to ignore them on the individual level, as well as to continue and present to the public in Israel and to the world the wrong narrative, knowingly, that all side effects are short-term and no causal relationship was proven, and so forth and so forth.
Exactly. So the next claim made by the Ministry of Health in the report was that there is no new signal, as you can see here in this slide. The Ministry of Health went so far as to claim that there were no new adverse events found in the study that were not already known, no new signals. So let's see again what the researchers actually said. So clip number 4.
חשוב פה לציין זה שהמידע שאני אספתי והתייחסתי אליו ואחר כך סיכמתי אותו ואני אראה לכם את התוצאות בהמשך, זה רק מידע שהוא לא היה ידוע, או שהוא לא מופיע בעלון לרופא של החיסון, זאת אומרת משהו שמחדש לנו את הידע, או איזושהי תופעה שהיא מוכרת, רק שהמאפיינים שלה שונים ממה שהוצהר עליו. בסדר, אם אנחנו רואים למשל תופעה שהיא קצרת מועד, והיא אמנם כמו סחרחורת או כאב ראש, שהיא מצוינת בעלון, אבל המדווח דיווח שהוא סובל מהתופעה הזאת למשך חצי שנה, אז למרות שהתופעה הזאת מוכרת, אני בכל זאת כללתי אותה במאגר המידע שאספתי ואחר כך ניתח. אז השלב הבא זה בעצם לקחתי את כל התופעות הנוירולוגיות, וראיתי שבעצם כשלקחתי את התופעות האלה וניתחתי בעצם את הדיוריישן שלהם, אז פה באמת הייתה ההפתעה. ברוב המקרים שדווחו על תופעות ארוכות שנמשכו מעבר לחודש, וברגע שאנחנו מסתכלים מעבר לחודש, אז זה משהו שמרמז באמת על משהו שלא ידענו קודם. ושימו לב, רק 12% היו תופעות שדווחו בין חודש ל3 חודשים. יתר התופעות היו מאוד מאוד ארוכות, שנמשכו מעבר ל3 חודשים. בסדר? זאת אומרת, הדיווחים שכללו מידע על דיוריישן, רובם דיווחו על תופעות ארוכות טווח. היו פה טינטונים, היו פה היפואסטזיות, סחרחורות מתמשכות, פרסטזיות וכולי, שרובן כאמור היו ארוכות יותר מ3 חודשים. בסדר, היו גם דיווחים של מעבר ל12, תסתכלו, כ30% מהדיווחים בעצם ציינו משך שהוא מעבר לשנה, ופה בקבוצה הזאת יש 13 חודשים, 15 חודשים, וחלקן הכילו גם מידע של ongoing. אותו דבר אני אסתכל על התופעות של הפרעות במחזור, בסדר? עד כה ידוע שהתופעות האלה הן תופעות קצרות מועד של מספר ימים, שגם פה יש לא מעט מקרים של הפרעות במחזור החודשי שהן נמשכות לאורך מספר חודשים. אותו דבר עשיתי בשריר שלד, בתופעות של שריר שלד, אז קודם כל זיהיתי את התופעות הנפוצות שעליהן דיווחו. עכשיו, פה חשוב להגיד שהתופעות האלה מופיעות בעלון לרופא, חוץ מהבק פיין שלא מופיע שם, אבל כן דווח בצורה ניכרת. בסדר? רק ההבדל פה באמת בהשוואה לעלון, זה שבעלון באופן מפורש מצוין שהתופעות האלה חולפות לאחר מספר ימים, וכמו שראינו גם, וזה בעצם אני חושבת החידוש של העבודה הזאת, זה שיש פה הרבה דיווחים שהם, היה פה רק 5% של תופעות שהם נמשכו בין שבועיים לחודש, וכל היתר היו ממושכות הרבה יותר. והתופעות שהן של מערכת עיכול, היו כמה, אומנם הקבוצה הזאת של תופעות לוואי היו יותר קצרות, יש פה 20% שדיווחו על תופעות לוואי, אבל עדיין יש פה חלק לא מבוטל שגם דיווחו על תופעות לוואי במערכת העיכול שנמשכו מעבר לחצי שנה, 3 חודשים. הקבוצה של מעבר ל-12 חודשים הייתה יותר קטנה, אבל אלה גם תופעות שאמורות לחלוף די מהר, ובעצם פה אנחנו רואים שוב פעם דיווחים על תופעות יותר ממושכות.
אני גם מאוד חושבת שצריך לעדכן את החברה, כי בפעם האחרונה שאנחנו לפחות נוכחנו בדיון, והיה דיון על תופעות ארוכות טווח, הם אמרו שאין להם ידע על זה. אז הנה, יש ידע על זה, ויש מידע.
Yeah. So, isn't there a new signal? As we heard, the researchers repeatedly emphasized throughout the discussion that they identified new signals and characterized them, characterized new side effects that were not known, that were not listed by Pfizer, and also both in terms of new side effects that were not known and in terms of the duration. Because even if some of the side effects were listed in Pfizer's leaflet, the duration was very different because the side effects were mostly long-lasting and ongoing, and also the phenomenon of re-challenge. So they were emphasizing that all those are new signals that were not known before. And in addition, we just saw how the minister's officials themselves are stating that Pfizer claimed that they have no knowledge on long-term side effects. So if they had no knowledge, isn't it a new signal?
And Yaffa, if I may, I want to emphasize 3 points here. The first of which is the reports to this system come primarily from the younger ages that were the ones that were vaccinated while the system was put in place. So imagine to yourself a neurological or gastro problem that lasts for months and weeks for a young individual that has basically zero risk from the COVID-19 as an illness, suffering through something that could be quite disabling for months. This is quite staggering just to think about that. Think about all of these young individuals, many of which are children, experiencing something like that. Now, just to again highlight how deceiving and untruthful the statement that the Ministry of Health put in their report to the public that there were no new signal, I would like to come back to what I already talked about and remind people that the form that was used to report had 2 parts. One is structured, that was set up in advance by the Ministry of Health and included a pre-specified set of side effects. That did not include neurological side effects. So now you have to ask the Ministry of Health, like if that was not you and you knew about it in advance, why didn't you ask about this in your structured form? And nevertheless, in spite of that, they actually received a tremendous amount of reports about neurological side effects. So now this was either known to you and then you intentionally tried not to be reported about, or it was not known to you, definitely not the magnitude of that, and the sign is that you actually did not include that in the closed form part of the form. And lastly, again, I want to remind to you, these are people that meet with the Pfizer people on a regular basis, because we know that Israel has a collaboration agreement with Pfizer that essentially is about to see how many vaccines you need to give to the population to obtain vaccine-induced herd immunity, which we know now that it's a failing concept. And we also know that Dr. Sharon Al-Roy, that I mentioned before, met with the Pfizer people based on her calendar that was exposed under a Freedom of Information request. We know that they meet on a weekly basis. So now we have to ask ourselves, to what extent they report about this to Pfizer, and if they did indeed report about this to Pfizer, like they talk about that, why Pfizer is not updating its own information to the public. This is again very, very disturbing.
Exactly. Yes, as Retsef said, the neurological problems were not listed by the Ministry of Health in the predetermined fields. Nevertheless, I think this was the most common side effect that was reported. And this is, I think, striking. How can they say that there is no signal? Ishai, I want you to show slide 5, if you can. So, because beyond all of this, what is very, very clear here, and I must say that, like Retsef, I have a great appreciation to the researchers, and in particular to Sasha, who was obviously the main researcher, because she really did a very, very thorough analysis, a very creative analysis of the reports, mainly thanks to her analysis of the free text, which she realizes, and she says it many times, she realized that it makes it possible to identify new signals and to characterize side effects with what she calls DRR, which is a disproportional reporting rate. And this is actually what she was planning to do next, to characterize the entire process that would make it possible to find a causal relationship, to show, first of all, the duration of the process, which they already did, how long the side effect lasts, if it doesn't stop, if it's ongoing, and if it recurs after repeated doses, which is the re-challenge they spoke about. And now she's also planning on checking the onset. When exactly does the side effect appear? So this is the whole process that can enable them to establish a causal relationship. So if we combine this fact that she was really into it and she really planned to do it, and the fact that they stopped, and we'll see about it in a few minutes, that they halted the study, it really, I think, raises a lot of questions. But there is no doubt in my mind that if she had been allowed to continue this research, she would have been able to characterize this entire process in a way that would enable identifying not only new side effects, new signals, but also characterizing a causal relationship with the vaccine. Okay, so slide 6 shows the next, the ministry's next claim, which they, I think, made to the, sorry, it was still in the report. And this is that the incidence of serious side effects is low. This claim is not stated out loud in the report, but throughout the entire report, the Ministry of Health is playing actually with the numbers. They are doing it by presenting calculations next to each of the findings without, of course, explaining what this calculation represents and what it means, but they are dividing the number of patient reports received for each side effect by a large number. The total number of doses that is given in Israel since December 2020, of course, ignoring the fact that the system was only launched at the end of 2021, a year after the vaccination started, and that the majority of reports were received from one HMO, as we will see. So this way they arrive at a small result in fractions of a percent, and just leave it to the reader's imagination, leave it to the readers to draw their own conclusions from it, and to conclude that maybe, okay, so it's so small, it's nothing. So in fact, there is a side effect study report here that says nothing. It has a list of numbers without putting them in context and without saying that there were many or few side effects, and all this for the only reason of downplaying the results. Most importantly, the researchers, and you must pay attention when you watch the whole video, the researchers never mentioned any such calculations as are shown in the report, and the reason is simple, because it's not a part of the study, because it's not possible to make such a calculation.
So just to emphasize, the researchers never divided the number of reports by any number of vaccines because they didn't feel it's appropriate. So that's an element that only was added later when the Ministry of Health, maybe thinking again medical legality, medical legal, thinking about what they can do to downplay the findings, and that was one of their main tactics. As we will see, it's very deceiving.
Yes. Okay, so in slide 7, we can already see one of the claims that was made by the Ministry of Health, the official, anonymous official, don't know who he is, to the Reuters fact-checking article. And the claim is that these are merely preliminary findings, and that the epidemiological team, Professor or Dr. Emilia Anis and her team, were the ones that instructed Mati Berkovich's team on what to do with them next. So is it indeed so? Let's see what really happens in the meeting and who is the professional. Shai, if you can put video number 5.
סשה, אני עוצר אותך לשנייה אחת ברשותך. קודם כל, זאת ההזדמנות, זאת הבמה המתאימה, אחת מהן, להודות לסשה על העבודה היוצאת מן הכלל שהיא עשתה מדצמבר 2021, כשהכרנו לראשונה. אנחנו לא הכרנו את סשה, קיבלנו עליה המלצות חמות, ותאמיני לי, כל המלצה שקיבלנו עלייך היא understatement למה שאת באמת. תאמיני לי.
אני מצטרפת לכל מילה.
כן, באמת, היא עושה פה עבודה יוצאת מן הכלל, נכון, יחד עם הצוות, עבודה של שיתוף פעולה, אין ספק. אין ספק שהניסיון שלך, סשה, בתור אחראית על הפרמקוביג'ן בזמנו בחברת טבע, גם בהחלט עשה פה את ההבדל. ואת יודעת מה, אמיליה, אני גם מודה באמת לך ולצוות שלך על האמון שנתת לנו, מבחינת ליווי וכל מה שאנחנו עשינו ועושים ביחד, גם זה לא מובן מאליו. ובאמת, אני חושב שאנחנו, למען הגילוי נאות, מאיה ואני ראינו את המצגת למעשה מאתמול בערב, והיא פשוט מדהימה. אמיליה, המצגת היא שלכם, היא של משרד הבריאות, אין פה בחוכמות.
אני אשמח לקבל אותה. אני חושבת שמה שנעשה כאן באמת יכול לשדרג אותנו גם לחיסונים אחרים, כי עכשיו המיקוד היה בחיסוני קורונה, ולכן גם התקבל התקציב והכל. אבל באמת, כאילו אפשר ללמוד בכלל ממה שנעשה כאן.
סשה, אני רק רוצה להגיד לכולם בעצם, כל המידע כאן הוא כל כך חשוב, וממש צריך לחשוב ביחד איך אפשר לפרסם את זה. אני לא יודעת אם כמאמר, כסיכום, כמצגת, אבל זה ממש ממש מידע שחשוב שהוא יהיה זמין, נגיש לציבור, ובכלל לעולם הפרמקוביג'ילנס באופן כללי, כי זה מידע מאוד חשוב.
אפשר לפרסם גם וגם וגם. מצגת לא שוללת מאמר.
סשה, זו עבודה מדהימה, כולכם, זה ממש...
אתם פשוט מדהימים, אני חושבת שממש זכינו, וחשוב להמשיך את זה. אז יש פה ערך מוסף למערכת.
חובה להמשיך את זה.
אז ביננו, בעיקר אני מאוד שמחתי שיכולנו לרדת ברזולוציה, או ההפך, להסתכל באמת באיזה תופעות מדובר וכמה זמן הן נמשכות. זה נראה לי הקטע
נכון.
לאפיין אותם.
אצלי זה מאוד מתסכל שאני לא יכולה לעשות את זה, אז זה ברמות של אנחנו מקבלים
מבחינת נאמר הטריות של
שגרה, אבל אז זה ברמה אחרת, אבל זה באמת מאוד מתסכל, כי כשמישהו בא ושואל, תגידי, מה, שמעת על איזושהי נשירת שיער, אז זה נורא קשה למצוא את זה, זה נורא קשה למצוא מה היה הדרשן, נורא קשה לעקוב גם. זה מאוד מרשים. אוי, מאיה, תודה, סשה, תודה, כל הכבוד לכם.
בשמחה, ממש היה לי כיף לעבוד איתך.
אני ממש מקווה שזה לא היה ושזה עוד יהיה, ואנחנו נמשיך את השיתופי פעולה והעבודה כאילו עם הצוות שלכם, מאיה, כאילו זה, בשבילי זה מתנה ממש, אני גם לומדת המון, אני לא מהתחום, אז בשבילי זה ממש בונוס מאוד גדול. אז טוב.
אני לעבוד איתכם, וסשה נכנסה לנו באמת לצוות, וזה מעולה.
Yes, so I think it's very, very clear from this discussion who really is the professional and who is teaching who and who is guiding who, how to analyze the data or how to, what to do with it. We can clearly hear the ministry's official really saying that she had all this data and she didn't even know what to do with it and how to analyze it. So I think
Yaffa, are we going to go back to the reporting and the division in the number of doses that is not appropriate, or we are not going to revisit this again? Because if not, then I would like to make a comment about that. Just to clarify. So again, I want to maybe go back to what we've seen and again remind people, one of the major ways that the Ministry of Health used to manipulate the data and present to the public in Israel, again, it took them 2 months from when the meeting took place in, I think, early June to sometimes in August when the report of the Ministry of Health came out. And as Yaffa mentioned before, the report did give the impression of very low reporting rates. And that was deceiving on multiple levels. The first of which is that, as we already talked about, this system was put in place only at the end of 2021, after the major part of the vaccines in Israel are already administered. And in fact, much of it was administered long before the system was put in place. So the fact of the matter is that during the reporting time when the system was working, there were primarily there was vaccination of the 5 to 11-year-old children with the primary 2 doses, and then also some third dose that was given to the 12 to 15 children, 12 to 15, the third dose. And some of the 4 doses were given in that period to the adult population. But even more than that, what they failed to mention to the Israeli public, that this system, the form to report on this system was distributed through the 4 HMOs in Israel, and it turned out that only one of the relatively smaller HMOs actually collaborated appropriately. So primarily one HMO, not entirely, but primarily one HMO reported, which means that these reports represent about 15 to 17% of the Israeli population only. And again, for a period of time were relatively a small fraction.
If you can show slide 8, it says exactly what Retsef
said. So just to give people, with two numbers, one of them with two facts to show how deceiving this is and how actually concerning the findings are. So first, to break a record of shamelessness, the Ministry of Health, when they reported about the reporting rates of menses irregularities, they go as far as dividing the number of reports by the total number of doses, including the ones that were given to males. I cannot imagine something more shameless than this. And if this is not like deceiving, I don't know what deceiving is about. But I did some calculations, some more realistic calculations, and I would like to share with you some of the rates, the more realistic rates that are here. So for example, if you think about the 12 to 17 year-old children that receive mostly booster third dose during the period of the reporting system, then and if you look on the number of reports about cardiovascular symptoms, we are talking about something at the range of 1 to 1,700. One report for 1,700, 1,750 doses given. And why this is so striking? Because if you put this together with what we already know about vague and subclinical episodes of myocarditis and other cardiovascular impact, especially on young individuals and children, this is a striking rate, right? One report for every 1,750 doses given, booster doses given to children 12 to 15, right? If you want to get even a little bit more disturbed, if I look on menses irregularities for the same age group, 12 to 17, booster vaccines, right? It's about one report for every 780 girls and women at this age group that received a booster dose that reported about that. Now, why is it so striking? Think about what parents took their children to get a booster in Israel. This is by no means the majority, luckily the majority in the public in Israel. These are people that are very much pro-vaccine, right? And they are the ones that are reporting these striking rate of problems in young children, girls and boys, that has zero risk from the vaccine and were encouraged and coerced to take not only 2 doses, but a 3rd dose. So when you actually look on the true, and this is true for other side effects, we don't have time to go over everything, but when you actually look on the true reporting rates, when you actually consider the fact that this is not the entire population in Israel, both in terms of time and as well as in terms of coverage of the HMOs, and only one HMO, Meuchedet, that is responsible for about 15% of the population was the primary reporting source, right? Then you actually find out that the reporting rates are very, very disturbing, including in the young population, including among parents that are by no means, what people used to, the shameless, the shameful use of the word anti-vaxxer. Right? These are people that took their children to take a 3rd dose, right? And they are reporting on this very, very high rate of side effects. So very disturbing.
Yes. And the Minister of Health, as Retsef said, shamelessly claimed that what we said, that the data came from primarily from one HMO, from one tiny HMO, Meuchedet, is false, and that the reports were received from all of the HMOs. I think this is an important point because of what Retsef said, because we are just talking about only 6 months, and these 6 months took place in essentially in 2022, when almost no one already got vaccinated, and the ones who did get vaccinated were children 12 to 15 who received the booster vaccine, among others.
And this is even without considering the underreporting that even a system like that will have. And by the way, people draw my attention that I mistakenly gave the impression that the vaccine doesn't have any risk to kids. So what I meant to say that these children and young children do not have any risk from COVID-19, especially this is second half of 2022 when Omicron is around. Like this is essentially really, really zero. You know, if you consider what we know now about the cardiac effect on young individuals and children, if you consider the fact there is an underreporting here, you should be extremely disturbed by what you see here.
So just to confront the MOH's claim that the data did come from major, that most of the data came from one HMO. Let's see the clip number 6, in which the researchers are talking about it during the meeting.
בנוגע לטופס, אני חושבת שזה טופס מאוד מפורט וכן חשוב שיהיה לנו את המידע אם נרצה לעשות פילוחים שונים. מה שכן, אני חושבת שאף אחד לא מדווח דרכו, כי זה לא משהו שצריך להגביר את המודעות לטופס הזה. אני רואה שיש שם איזושהי העדפה לקופת חולים מאוחדת למשל. אני מבינה שהיא עשתה הרבה יותר עבודה כדי להנגיש את זה למטופלים שלה, למבוטחים שלה, לעומת למשל קופות אחרות. זה אומר
שהכללית עם רן בניצר רוצים לאסוף את הנתונים אליהם, עוד יכול להיות.
גם מכבי לדעתי לא שלחו כל כך, כי היה להם טופס דיווח, הם אספו לבד תופעות, ולא דרך הטופס שלכם.
אז חבל, כן.
נקודה מאוד חשובה, מה שאמרת עכשיו, סשה סופר סופר חשוב. זה אומר שיש קופות ששומעות את האינפורמציה קרוב לחזה שלהם.
את ההגנה שלנו,
הנה סך הכל, כאילו בן אדם אחד יושב ומנתח את זה, זה גם לא, כי אנחנו לא ארצות הברית, ולמזלנו לא כל הקופות הפיצו את הלינק הזה. בינתיים זה בסדר, בינתיים זה כן הצלחנו להכיל את כל הדיווחים האלה.
So as we just heard the leading researcher stating that the HMOs were keeping the data close to their chest, and then Sasha was saying that because most of the HMOs did not actually distribute the reporting forms, so that there was actually no way for their patients to report back. Just to go back to what Retsef said, that in Israel we have 4 different HMO type organizations, and each Israeli signed up with one of them. So aside from Meuchedet, the other 3, including Israeli 2 largest one, Klalit and Maccabi, were, as Professor Berkovich said, were keeping the data close to their chests. But unfortunately, Meuchedet is a very, very small HMO that is representing about 50% of the Israeli population, and also with heavy religious population who has lower vaccination rates than the general population, and seldom uses smartphones. So most of them were not even able to receive the text message. Okay, so moving on to the last, but not moving on to the last claim, which is very general, and if you can see it in slide 9, they are claiming that things were taken out of context, and that the participants of the meeting can confirm that things were taken out of context. So I think after all we heard, you can all judge for yourself if things were taken out of context. During this meeting, the researchers are again and again emphasizing the same findings and the same conclusions. So if anything, this video proves the exact opposite. And I think it's exactly why we must release the entire video, and you can be the judges of that. Okay, so now we're coming to the point where we are talking about what happened to the study. Okay, we all heard how thankful the Ministry of Health officials were, and how they complimented the researchers. So perhaps the most astonishing thing is that after all of this, despite the importance of the study, despite the warnings, despite the fact that the researchers are explaining to them again and again that they still have a lot of work to do, despite the fact that the MOH officials are really taking them and telling them how they will make sure the study will continue, the study was eventually halted. So instead of pursuing it, they just pulled the plug. So we're going to hear now the researchers, first of all, emphasize the importance of continuing the study. So clip number 7. Shai?
Second.
אני חושב, אמיליה, זו מצגת שאם היה אפשר להציג אותה לשרון, זה היה יכול להיות מעולה.
כי באמת יש פה דברים מדהימים.
לדעתי, אמיליה, המטרה שלנו, שלך ושלי, היא להמשיך את שיתוף הפעולה הזה בינינו. אם מדברים על העתיד, תראו, יש פה 155 דיווחים על מייג'ור, כלומר, או אשפוז או פנייה למיון בקרב המבוגרים. אין ספק שיש מקום לעשות את זה בדיוק כמו שעשינו בילדים.
נכון, נכון.
בייחוד שיש כזאת קבוצה גדולה של דיווחים שהם ongoing, זאת אומרת, אנחנו לא באמת יודעים מה נגמר שם, וגם הטקסט החופשי אפשר לנו באמת לזהות תופעות חדשות כמו טינטון, כמו היפואסטזיות, פרסטזיות, מהם סוגי ההפרעות. זה לא באופן כללי להגיד יש איזה שהם הפרעות במחזור הווסת, אלא ממש להבין איזה סוגים של הפרעות. ואני חושבת שככל שנמשיך לאסוף, אז הפול שלנו יהיה יותר גדול ויותר מהימן.
נצטרך לעבור על החומר של הילדים ולסווג אותו. היו מספר עשרות של תיקים, של מקרים, לא עשרות רבות, וגם שם צריך באמת לבוא ולעשות סטטיסטיקה.
וגם חלק נדרש פולו-אפ.
בחלק מהמקרים גם נדרש פולו-אפ, אז לתשומת לבכם, נועה.
לא, כל עוד הטופס נמצא על האתר, אנחנו נצטרך לתחזק את זה איכשהו. אני לא יודעת מה נעשה, זה באמת נקודה חשובה
יש פה מקום באמת, לא בגלל שאני רוצה בכוח להמשיך. צריך להמשיך את זה, יש פה משהו שהוא בהחלט, יש מקום להמשיך בעיקר גם לראות את אלה שמתאשפזים, אלה שהגיעו לחדר המיון.
כן, כן, להמשיך את התהליך כמו שהוא, ממש זה עובד טוב.
נועה, תראי, אמיליה מאוד עסוקה. כאן צריך להראות לשרון את החשיבות של שיתוף הפעולה בינינו.
כן, אני יודעת. אנחנו נעשה מאמץ. אני גם מהצד שלי ידבר עם מי שצריך, עם המקורבים.
אני אעשה, אבל זה חייב להיות מכל הכיוונים.
זה בצורה מוגבלת ככל שניתן.
זה סופר חשוב, ואני חושבת ששרון יודעת את זה. אני חושבת שהיא תתמוך בזה.
כן, מאיה, גם שימו לב שבאמת הרי לקחנו רק את חמשת הקטגוריות, אבל אני גם ראיתי כל מיני אלופציות ותופעות אימוניות שהיו אמנם יותר נדירות, מטבע הדברים, הן יותר נדירות, אבל גם שם יש מה לחקור. אז זה ממש איזשהו מאגר שמחכה רק שנגלה מה הוא אומר לנו. ואפשר גם להעשיר אותו הרבה יותר, ובאמת להגיע לפרופיל יותר טוב, פרופיל בטיחותי יותר טוב של החיסון מאשר מה שידוע עד עכשיו. כי מהדיווחים אני מבינה שבאמת יש יותר דברים לגלות ממה שאנחנו יודעים.
And so the researchers are really explaining to them how much work there is still needs to be done, including analyzing hospitalizations cases, because we saw here rather serious cases, rather serious side effects, but they didn't even get to analyze the researchers didn't even get to analyze the most serious cases, which were cases that required hospitalizations. So this is one thing that they are pointing. And the second thing is that they only managed to analyze the 5 most common side effects, but they identified 22. And some of the side effects, those other remaining 17 side effects were quite serious. For example, Sasha doesn't talk about it here, but I think the sixth one, the sixth side effect that is the 6th most common side effect is cardiovascular side effect. So they didn't even get to do that. So they really are trying to convince the Ministry of Health to do it. But nevertheless, we know now that the ministry stopped the study, halted it, and how did they do it? Simply by funding it. And we will hear now how Mati Berkovich is explaining that he actually had a bad experience with the funding issues with the ministry, and that they will need to wait and see if they can indeed continue to work on it, if they need receive the funding to continue working on it. So clip number 8.
בהמשך, כי החוזה בינינו כאילו הסתיים. נועה, אז תעבירי את המסר בבקשה.
בסדר.
אני אגיד לך מה שקורה זה שאני מעורב באופן אישי בכל הקטע של התשלום, כי יש כבר תקדים, שילמו לגנטיקה באסף הרופא סכום מאוד גבוה של כסף. היום אמורים לשלם אותו, ולא שילמו אותו. משרד הבריאות. אז יש כבר תקדים שלא שילמו. אז בינתיים, חלילה, סשה מקבלת את התשלום כמו שעון, כמו שצריך, מהקרן של היחידה שלנו. וכל האחרים שמצטרפים בזה וזה, ממשיכים לקבל את זה מעורבות מאוד גדולה. מאיה לא מתוגמלת ישירות מאותה זה, מתוגמלת מהקרן, זה משהו אחר, אבל טוב, נראה. זה לא ייקח הרבה זמן, זה עד ה-15 לחודש, נשאר עוד שבוע. אבל אני אקבל תשובה, אם לא, אז חלילה, אני לא מאיים, אין פה איומים, אנחנו כן.
לא, אבל זה גם צריך להיות חלק בשיחה של מיליה עם שרון, היא גם צריכה להעלות את זה, שזה מסתיים עוד שבוע.
כן, כן. טוב, נראה מה יהיה. נהיה בקשר.
So how do we know for sure that the study was indeed halted? So I have another surprise here for the Ministry of Health, if they are watching. And this is a letter issued by Professor Berkovich to the Ministry of Health a few days after this discussion took place, in which he summarizes the ministry, the discussion, and you can see in sections 13 and 14, he states that until today the Ministry of Health did not even sign a contract with his unit, and nor has the ministry paid them, even though they recruited dedicated personnel for this purpose. And so, unfortunately, he says, as a result, his unit is ceasing its activity in this project. I think maybe also Mia's attention to look at sections 5 and 9. In section 5, Professor Berkovich also emphasizes the over 150 cases reports on hospitalizations among adults who were not yet analyzed and were not yet treated by anyone, actually. And in section 9, he is saying another important thing, that actually the research team has already given the Ministry of Health another presentation in March 2022 already. And this presentation, Sasha is talking about it during the meeting, and she says that it was actually more extensively written than this one, the current one, because she was sure that this presentation was, the previous presentation was intended for the public, but nevertheless, this presentation, and this is something Professor Berkovich is saying, you can see it already in June 2022, even the presentation for March was not yet uploaded to the website. So I think it emphasizes the fact that the ministry did not intend to, had no intention to ever publish the information or to be transparent about it.
And again, I think, again, the name of Dr. Sharona Roy is mentioned multiple times during the discussion as the decision maker. I think everybody that listens to this conversation cannot get any other impression but, you know, be quite convinced that the team itself, not only the research team, but also the people that they meet from the Ministry of Health during the meeting. And again, these are senior people that are essentially are the people responsible for monitoring the side effects of the vaccine. And they are quite excited. They all in agreement and that the research should continue, and they think it's a major upgrade, and they think that the findings should be published both to the public as well as in the scientific literature. And they all say, hey, we think that Dr. Sharona Roy will approve that. And you have to ask yourself very hard questions. Why didn't she approve it? You know, is it perhaps because she has some relationship with, you know, we know that she has relationships with the working relationships with the Pfizer people. I hope that that has not been a factor in her decision not to continue it. Is it because it contradicts what she and others in the Ministry of Health promoted to the Israeli public for more than a year and a half about the vaccines, that the vaccines are safe and effective, and that all side effects, even the rare ones that occur, are short-term, and now it turns out that that's not the case. But I think it would be good if she can explain to the public why doesn't she think this is an important research to continue? Why this is not an important effort to continue, so the Israeli public can receive and the world can receive accurate information and transparent information about the risks and benefits of this vaccine. And I think, you know, when you look at this data, this just adds up to a mounting evidence that suggests that we need to stop these vaccines and really immediately, so we are not continuing to cause harm to people. So I think that are very hard questions here, and especially because of the role that Israel played in driving vaccination throughout the entire world. We were first to give the booster, the third booster, and the fourth booster. Dr. Sharon Arey, the person I just mentioned, also presented to the expert committee of the FDA about, at least in the discussion about the booster. She also wrote papers again in the academic literature with Pfizer people. So a lot of at least perceived conflict of interest here that makes you very, very concerned, given the decisions that were made by the Ministry of Health not to continue this research.
I want to emphasize just another point regarding the study's finding, that the Ministry of Health didn't just hide the findings from the public. They also have hidden it from their own experts, because although the ministry was aware of these findings since early June, as we said, they withheld them for 2 months, and even from the expert committee, they decided on the end of this month, the end of June 30, to approve the vaccine for infants as young as 6 months. So that decision, that critical decision, was made 3 weeks after the ministry has been warned about the results and the implications. So yeah. We will end by showing a clip in which we will hear how important it was for the researchers to publish their findings transparently to the public, as well as in the literature. So clip number 9.
אני חושב, אמיליה, שזה צריכה להיות שאיפה שלך ושלנו, לפרסם את זה ביחד. א', לגבי מצגת, מי כמוכם יותר בקיאות לפרסם את זה באתר של משרד הבריאות. כן, ואין ספק שפרסום דבר כזה יהווה באמת שקיפות לציבור, הציבור ידע, יקבל את כל, עם כל ההסתייגויות שקיימות לגבי הנושא של הדיווח הספונטני. זאת אומרת, אני כרגע מסתכל גם על קהל היעד המשותף שלנו ושלכם, כדי להמשיך את המיזם הזה. חבל לא להמשיך אותו, חבל.
אני אטפל בזה.
אפשר להגיד המצגת הראשונה, עלתה לאתר או שעד עכשיו היא לא עלתה?
2, 3, 4.
היא לא עלתה, יש לנו מריבות אינסופיות עם אנשי האתר לגבי הנגשה, ואנחנו לא מוכנים להנגיש, אנחנו רוצים שייתנו לנו מישהו שינגיש לנו את המצגות, כי האגף שלנו מפרסם כל כך הרבה מסמכים ומצגות, אנחנו לא עומדים בזה. אז זה עומד שם, שרון מודעת לזה, יודעת שכל המצגות מוכנות, אבל הן מחכות שינגישו אותן.
לא, אז אני אומרת, אולי כבר אין טעם להעלות את המצגת ההיא, פשוט לעבוד על המצגת הזאת.
כן. אני אתייעץ עם אמיליה לגבי זה, אני חושבת שזה רעיון טוב לעשות מצגת אחת מסכמת.
באמת אבל נועה, המצגת הזאת, המצגת שעשיתי למרץ, הייתה הרבה יותר מפורטת ומסכמת במלל את מה שרואים בגרפים, כי ידעתי שהיא מיועדת לציבור. פה אני לא סיכמתי שום סיכום ולא שום הסבר, כי ידעת שאני אדבר וגם ידעת שאני אדבר איתכם, שאתם, יש לכם גישה, זאת אומרת, יש לכם את הראייה. אז אני חושבת שהיא קצת תהיה חסרה לקהל הרחב, הם לא יבינו ממנה הרבה. צריך קצת יותר להסביר מה רואים ואיך מפלחים.
וואי, מדהים, כל הכבוד.
אני כל כך מרוצה סוף סוף אצלה, כי אני הרגשתי כל הזמן שאני רואה את הדברים האלה, הרגשתי פה איסורי מצפון, שאנחנו לא משקפים את זה.
אני חושב
Yes, at the end of this clip, it's not hard to notice how Sasha expresses her relief that these findings are finally going to be published to the public. Naively, she seems to believe that the Ministry of Health truly works for the best interest of the public. Little did she know that as far as the Ministry of Health is concerned, all these findings should be hidden from the public. And as we know today, in spite of the expression of enthusiasm during the meeting about how important it is to continue the study, so in reality, the study was halted and its findings were never published. But
Yaffa? Sorry.
In some sense, as the Minister of Health failed to do so, we are here to fulfill Sasha's wish and deliver these important findings about the COVID vaccine safety signals to the public. Yes.
So Yaffa, before we end up, I think that there were quite a few questions that I got some selected number of them. I apologize in advance that we. I apologize in advance that we are not able to answer all questions, but I also want to emphasize that the full link of the entire discussion with all the presentations, all translated to English, will be, including this meeting that is recorded, will all be available in the public domain to anybody that wants to watch it again or wants to share it. I hope we can get your help to distribute that, because some of the questions were about the media reaction and the reaction from politicians. So maybe that's a good place to mention the fact that we have struggled, unfortunately, to generate any interest from the Israeli mainstream media to even look at this video. Nevertheless, to talk about it in the public media outlets. In fact, very recently we have been engaged with Twitter discussion with the editor-in-chief and the owner of one of the major newspapers in Israel, Haaretz, who is supposedly a newspaper that is about civil rights and transparency and these terms. And apparently, when it comes to the COVID-19 policies in Israel, and particularly to the vaccine, this newspaper has not shown a lot of objectivity or even any willingness or serious willingness to give space to other opinions about the vaccines. But particularly, they were offered to watch this full video, and not only that they refused, but when Reuters came up with fact-checking, delusional fact-checking article that again did not ask for our response, they actually published it.
To watch the video.
Yeah, and also did not ask to see the entire video. So some of the statements that things were taken out of context were made by Reuters, in spite of the fact that they were offered to watch the entire video. So they did not watch the video, and they just published the reaction of the Minister of Health. I do want to acknowledge that some media outlets, like I think Yaffa already mentioned, were interested and reported about this leaked video. I want to acknowledge Epoch Times for their really working with us together to also help with the translation of this overall video. And also to GB News and their willingness to give a stage to opinions like that. So there are a few outlets, international outlets, that were willing to do that. In Israel, it's a complete dead end, at least so far. And I want to encourage people on this call, both from Israel and outside Israel to maybe write to those media outlets and ask them why do they think that that's not of public interest in Israel, and to the world to report, or at least watch the video and then make a decision, right? So I want to encourage everybody on the call, why don't you write to them? Maybe they will, maybe that would change their mind about how they think about it.
Okay, so you want to...
Yeah, I'm just looking through the questions here. I think I answered a few questions. There are questions about the neurological side effects and menses irregularities, and people ask about the mechanisms. And I think that there is now growing literature that suggests some mechanisms. I'm not sure if that's the right place to get into all the details, but this is actually raising a very good point, which is, I want to go back to the fact that the Ministry of Health knows about individuals that, based on their research team, experience both long-term side effects, sometimes disabling and rechallenged, namely the side effect became worse or came back again every time they took another dose. So these are people that listened to the Ministry of Health and went to vaccinate, got injured, and now the Ministry of Health that knows about their identity, knows about their medical records, can actually reach out to them, can monitor them. As we heard, there are many of them have ongoing issues, right? They don't do that. And I think that, to me, that's undermining one of the most important principles that, in fact, if you are a vaccine supporter, you should be most worried about, because if you are not going to show and guarantee for people that take the vaccine and get injured, and every vaccine, even the best of them, have risks and people get injured, if you are not going to worry about the people that take care of the people, take care of the people that got injured, study what are the mechanisms, develop treatments, right? Especially when you force people to actually take these vaccines with no good scientific basis, including people with very minimal risk or zero risk from the actual illness, right? If you're not going to do that, you're going to lose the trust of people in what you're doing, and we already see that. Like, and you know, we in Israel have 98% adherence to traditional vaccines forever, right? And when the two first doses were administered, we basically had over 80 or even over 90 in some age groups adherence to the ask to get vaccinated. At the third booster, it went down to lower than 50%. The fourth booster, and when it came to children, it's really very, very small fraction of people that are still trusting what the Ministry of Health is telling them. And I think that one of the reasons is lack of transparency, and the other reason is really, honestly, it's lack of empathy, which you would think is a fundamental value of medicine, of not caring for the people that got injured. It's very hard to see how you can rationalize this, both from the perspective of ethics, as well as from the perspective of really being strategic about your ability to maintain trust and maintain willingness of people to listen to public health instructions or guidance, right? And that's why I think that, and I say that in many outlets, if you are a vaccine supporter, you should be the most disturbed by what we have seen here, because that's undermining some of the most fundamental principles that are really essential for any public health authority to be able to even expect people to get vaccinated. Let's see if there are other questions here. Yeah, people ask if the doctor's opinions change. I think that yes, there is a process here of change. I think it's slowed by censorship and by intimidation from health authorities that basically create a situation when doctors have to take a risk for their professional future and careers if they want to speak up and say the truth. But I think there is a turning point here that is, and there is a momentum because more and more information is coming out, and I'm optimistic that the truth is coming out, and it would just be expedited over the course of the next months and years.
There is a question about the compensation scheme in Israel.
The what?
The compensation scheme in Israel, is there any such?
So yeah, there is no special compensation for COVID-19 vaccines. There is a scheme of compensating vaccine injured people. I think to the best of my knowledge, there is no public information, unlike other countries, about who and how many and how much people were compensated for injuries because of COVID-19 vaccines. And just to put this in context, this is part of a broader problem of the Ministry of Health in Israel, maybe like other health authorities in other countries, but maybe in a more extreme way, is consistently refusing to share information that is really critical to understanding the safety and the efficacy of these vaccines. For example, all-cause mortality data based on age and vaccine status. That's something that the court in Israel already ordered the Ministry of Health to release publicly, and they still nevertheless refuse to do that. The study that we just talked about for the last almost 2 hours, they refuse to release it. So this is why the PECC just launched a campaign to raise money that will be used to fund legal efforts to really pursue the Ministry of Health in different courts in Israel and through different legal avenues to make sure that the data is being shared transparently with the Israeli public. Unfortunately, without legal effort, this is not going to happen. And legal efforts, one of the things they count on, I think, is that they will exhaust you, and they take into account the fact that the other side doesn't have as many resources like they do. And we need that help, and we are trying to get that help from the public and from supporters to go after the Ministry of Health and really make sure in different avenues, legal avenues, that they are releasing the data that will allow all of us to explain to ourselves and to the world what is the true safety and what is the true efficacy of these vaccines, and hopefully get the record straight about what the truth is.
There is a question about, do you think doctors have changed their minds?
Yeah, I think that some doctors are starting to change their minds, and some are starting to have the courage to speak. I think that many doctors that I know, they know that something is wrong. And by the way, the fact, one indication to see that many doctors know that something is wrong is that we actually got data that our friend David Schulman received under Freedom of Information request from major hospitals in Israel about vaccination rates among medical staff, and you see that after even the third booster, you see already a major decline in vaccination rates, and the fourth booster is really low. So I think that doctors are starting to realize that definitely the idea of all the boosters is wrong, that there is a problem with efficacy and that there is a problem with safety. I think that many of them are afraid, and they have, I don't want to justify anybody not speaking, but I do want to acknowledge that they have good reasons to be afraid, because there are already examples of the Ministry of doctors that did speak. And as you know, not only in Israel it happens, but it's also happening in Israel that they are being pursued with disciplinary actions and shaming in the public, in the social media. So you are, it's unfortunately still about taking risk to speak up. But I think it's coming, and I don't think the truth is going to come out, and more people are going to talk about it.
One question is about the Naranjo scale. Do you want to a little bit expand on it?
Yeah, again, without getting into too many details, I think that this is one of the common accepted framework of pharmaceutical surveillance to determine whether a side effect reported after a vaccine is taken, or after more generally a drug is taken, is causally related to the vaccine or merely just a coincidence, right? Like this is a tension that exists for any reporting after taking a drug, and specifically a vaccine, whether that was something caused by the vaccine or something that was just coincidentally happening temporarily close to when the drug was administered, right? Now, this has been played as an argument by people that want to dismiss the major safety signals that we have about the specific vaccines of the corona, against COVID-19. But I think that this framework that they use is very common, which basically says if every time that I take the vaccine, or part of it, it's not the entirety of this framework, but every time that I take the vaccine, I see something that is a signal that the side effect becomes worse or reappear, that should, coincidence can happen once, but it cannot happen, or it's very unlikely that it will happen twice, right? And that's why they take that and consider that as a very significant and very strong evidence that we don't see here coincidence, but we actually see something that really points to causal relationship to the vaccine, if that makes sense.
Yes, someone is asking if that includes the booster, and yes, of course.
Yeah. So they are looking on all this covers, and in fact, the data there, people that can look at it offline on the entirety of the data, you can actually see separation of the reporting after first dose, second dose, third dose, fourth dose, age group. As I said, like every individual here is identified at the individual level, that we know everything about what their age is, what their gender is, of course, all the medical record, but also, of course, based on what they report, did the side effect happen after the first dose, second dose, third dose, or fourth dose?
There's a question about when this recorded conversation took place, and maybe people who didn't make it to the Rumble. So it was on early June. The meeting took place in early June, and the report was published in the beginning of August this year. Yeah. Okay, questions about whether deaths are included. No, deaths are not included because this was not the mandate of the study. They only analyzed reports on side effects, and not even hospitalizations or the really serious side effects were not. By the way, another limitation of the study I think we need to mention is that they only looked for side effects that appeared maximum 30 days after each of the doses. So it is also a limitation. So we have several limitations here. First of all, they only followed people, they only analyzed side effects from half a year, 6 months, and these 6 months were when almost all of the Israelis were vaccinated with 2 or 3 doses. They only looked for side effects that appeared maximum 30 days after the vaccine, and most of the HMOs did not participate, did not cooperate. So they had a very small, the reports are only representing a small percentage of the population.
Yeah, and just I think there's some questions I want to emphasize. So Israel is a small country, and it has a very centralized and computerized health system. So the Ministry of Health in Israel is really well suited to really be pioneering research on side effects in Israel. They can bring together whether people got COVID, when did they get COVID, background illnesses that they may have had, And I think you know, as much as Israel became the lab of Pfizer, one would at least would have hoped that there would be not only a lab to promote the vaccine and promote using the vaccine, but also to promote transparency about the risks and benefits of this vaccine and the safety. And interestingly enough, the agreement that they had with Pfizer does not say anything about side effects. It's all about getting to herd immunity, which already suggests to you the mindset. So I think that the opportunity and the ability to do many things that maybe other countries will struggle to do, even if they want to, is just underscoring the lack of motivation that is, and maybe intentional lack of motivation that not to do and not to understand the safety issues. Again, as I mentioned, this is wrong on so many levels. But we in the PECC, we are not going to give up, and we have all intentions to go after the Ministry of Health in different legal avenues, hopefully with the support of the public in Israel and maybe beyond, and really make sure that they are going to reveal the data first, and then hopefully act on the data that is being revealed, and put together programs to study the side effects, to develop treatments, and also to give truthful and science-based recommendation to the public in Israel about the vaccine, which I think it's fair to say that has not been the case so far.
Another one is someone is saying that no one is mentioning the fifth dose, but there's so few takers that it's not worth talking about.
Yeah, some would say too few, even few is too many, but like, yeah. But yes, I think the PECC expressed its opposition to the idea of boosters already from the third booster, and I think that the reality that has transpired just underscored the fact that these boosters just created more harm and more side effects, and had minimal to no impact, at least not beyond the perhaps maybe a short-term impact on protecting people even from what is so-called serious illness and death. You know, in fact, when you look on this booster program, it should be very clear to everybody that knows what vaccines are that this is called a vaccine, but it is in fact it's not a vaccine. It's not a vaccine because the mechanism is not similar to any previous vaccine, but it's also not a vaccine because at least when you start to take something every 4 to 6 months, that sounds to me more like therapeutic drug rather than like a vaccine. So that might be another thing that we need to change, that the way we speak about these therapeutics and stop calling it vaccine.
Just to mention that in Israel, most of the people who received it, I don't like to say took because they didn't take it. I don't think they took it willingly, but received the vaccine, the fifth dose, the Omicron adjusted those were elderly people in care homes. But just a few days ago, I think 2 days ago, there was a devastating case in which a young man, 30 years old, just died a few hours after receiving the fifth dose. So we can see the results, even though indeed very few people are getting vaccinated right now.
Maybe it's time to
yeah.
I think it's very late in the US and in Israel. Sorry, in the US it's afternoon, but
in Israel it's late. So I want to end this session by thanking the team Angels who helped translating this video and the presentation, but most of all the real hero of this story. You know, people told us that we are brave, but the person who had the conscience and the courage to leak this video and to reveal the truth is is the real hero here in my eyes.
And you know, maybe we should mention the name of the supporting cast in person, but Shachar and Shai were, you know, we are speaking, but they are behind the scenes making sure that we actually can be heard. So thank you both.
Thank you. Without you,
and by the way, also many thanks to all the people that worked hard to translate the videos, to cut them, to edit them. We had a big crew here of all volunteers that did that. So kudos to all of them as well.
So thank you, everyone.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Have a good evening, and time to join the Twitter space now. Yes.